You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. NAACP and Congressman Bennie Thompson of Mississippi are suing Donald Trump and his attorney, Rudy Giuliani, over the insurrection on January 6th for violating the 1871 Ku Klux Klan Act, a Civil War era law that prohibits interference with Congress's ability to carry out its constitutional duties. Joining us right now is Congressman Bennie Thompson of Mississippi. Congressman, glad to have you on the show. First and foremost, why did you and the NAACP decide to file this now? You're the only member of Congress listed. Who are the others? Are you going to have add other names to it? Why file this suit now?
Well, thank you for having me on your show first, Roland. It's important that we file the suit immediately after the Senate refused to convict Donald Trump of his egregious activities as president. We impeached him in the House. Senate didn't do what they needed to do. Clearly, Donald Trump needs to be stopped before he really get a lot more people hurt. As you saw what happened on January 6th, he actually sicked that crowd on his vice president, members of the Senate, members of the House, the security people, everybody there. Clearly, he's at fault. This is our way, working with the NAACP, to hold him accountable for those activities on January 6th.
Typically, when we have these type of deals, civil rights groups actually align together to join forces. And so, what was that strategy behind it? Why not have, since obviously the law talks about interfering with Congress, not have 20, 30, 50, their entire Black Caucus, or getting as many Democrats as a part of this lawsuit?
Well, you know, we will bring other people into the suit. As I said, we felt it important to jump on as soon as possible. We had a meeting with the Congressional Black Caucus today. We'll have briefing sessions over the next 10 days. There's a lot of interest in joining the suit. It will go forward. I'm happy the NAACP is stepping up, and we can amend the suit. We have one opportunity to amend the plaintiffs in the suit. We plan to do that. We have several members who will join us who've called and said that. But again, this is the beginning. This is by no means the end, but it's a novel approach to hold a racist administration accountable for their dastardly deeds that they did on January 6th. So we'll have our day in court. As you know, this act was put together right after the Civil War to protect Southern elected officials from the Klan and other people who didn't want them to come and work in Washington as member of this unified government. So we've had the law on the books since 1871. And here we are pulling the trigger on a 1871 Civil Rights Act, commonly referred to as the Ku Klux Klan Act. And the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, are also included in this because they were part and parcel to this insurrection. So we look forward to having our day in court in the District of Columbia.
This is obviously has been a very contentious issue. In fact, it's people in so many different ways. And Senator Mitch McConnell stood on the floor and pretty much said that, fine, you want to go to Donald Trump, do it in court. And so, in essence, he was opening the door to civil or criminal action against Donald Trump.
Well, you know, we quoted Mitch McConnell in the suit as one of the justifications for doing it because he acknowledged he didn't have the strength to vote for a conviction, but he said, if you disagree with us, then you can go to court civilly or criminally and pursue Donald Trump. And that's what we exactly plan to do by filing this suit. We think when discovery is put together and the questions are asked and the request for documents are received, we will find a pattern of practice that Donald Trump orchestrated bringing people to Washington on January 6th. If you notice, he right after the election in November and said, I want you to come to Washington on January 6th. It's going to be wild. Now, I don't know what that means to most people, but after that speech and what we saw occurring on January 6th, and he told the crowd, go down to the Capitol where they are meeting now and tell them to stop the steal. Now, and you see what happened when they came to the Capitol. They basically created an insurrection. A lot of people, like myself included, had our lives at risk for these rioters who are no more than modern-day Klansmen. And so that's why we plan to take them to court. If we're successful, especially with the punitive damages that we want assessed by the court, we'll put them out of business. And our job and our goal is to do just that.
This has been obviously a major issue. And we discussed this yesterday on my show. And Bree Newsom said this, and I agree with her. She said, I don't think that folks in this country are taking what took place on January 6th seriously. That she said this was the greatest breach of the federal government since before the Civil War, since really the War of 1812.
Well, you're absolutely right, Roland. You understand, in America, since we are the shining example of what a democracy looks like, we settle our differences at the ballot box. And lo and behold, here's this loser who sick those racist individuals that he assembled in Washington on the government that he's led for the last 4 years. But part of what he did was organize the right-wing domestic terrorist element in this country. And so what you saw on January 6th was the manifestation of that 4 years of organizing by Donald Trump. Look at what happened in Charlottesville. The first comment from him said there were good people on both sides. That was an absolute lie. That was not the case. And so the fact that these same individuals wanted to kidnap the governor of Michigan, hold a trial, and execute her. I mean, what kind of people are this? I mean, this is America, and we can't afford to have people like this running around loose under the name of calling themselves patriots, of all things, patriots, which is a code word that's been hijacked by the right-wing element in this country to signal that we have to take over or else they will start running things. And you and I, Roland, know who they is.
Congressman Bennie Thompson, we certainly appreciate you joining with us to discuss this. Obviously, it is a huge issue. Republicans continue to insist that this was really no big deal. Folks like Senator Ron Johnson, when he says that it couldn't have been an insurrection because he didn't see weapons.
Well, you know, we had 5 people to die. We had 125 law enforcement people get hurt. We had millions of dollars in damages incurred. It costing us about $500 million a month to keep the National Guard in Washington because of this act. Obviously, he's ill-informed and misinformed if he's continuing to say that.
Or he's simply delusional and stuck in Trump land. I think that's probably more like it. Congressman Bennie Thompson, chair of the Committee on Homeland Security. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, brother.
All right, let's introduce my panel. A. Scott Bolden, former chair, National Bar Association Political Action Committee. Amisha Cross, political analyst and Democratic strategist. And we'll be joined later by Robert Portillo, executive director, Rainbow Push Coalition Peachtree Street Project. Scott, your assessment of this lawsuit, any merit?
You know, it's got merits because it's been filed, and I tell you, this statute hasn't been tried or challenged in since the 1800s. And so I like it. It's creative, it's outside the box, and it's under 42 U.S.C. 1985. There's probably a provision that allows them to, the plaintiffs to recover legal fees. But more importantly, I've always said the civil justice system is really the right court for a lot of these police brutality cases, as well as this type of case under 42 U.S.C. 1985. You get depositions, you get testimony under oath. You really want to find out what happened and how they got organized and who did what, and the danger to fulfill the elements of this statute, as old as it may be, is still on the books. You take depositions, you give them interrogatories, you ask for documents, right? And then here's the kicker. You request admissions. Do you admit X, Y, and Z? Do you admit? That includes Trump, that includes the Proud Boys, that includes all the defendants, if you will. And while it may take a year or two or three because of various delays that the defendants will want to put upon the plaintiffs, you can get to the truth through this process. And until a judge or even the Supreme Court says you can't sue them for this, they have standing. These are congressmen who were victims, right? So this case has staying power unless the Supreme Court says otherwise. I'm excited about it, and I think it's a real bold, creative opportunity to seek real justice in this country against those insurrectionists.
Amisha, is this Democrats prolonging this, or is it smart to go after Donald Trump in this way?
This is absolutely smart. I think that we saw, and many of us knew what was going to happen when the impeachment trial began, that Republicans were definitely not going to find any guilt in Donald Trump. But this is a very ingenious way to go about it. One, because we know who the targets were. We knew who the targets were before the insurrection happened, but we definitely know who the targets are. Specifically looking at the states that President Trump named out, the ones that he consistently tweeted about, the large Black voter participation in those states, what we saw with the voter intimidation, what we saw with the running of a specific campaign bus off of the road by white supremacists. We know what the call outs to the Proud Boys were. We have all of the evidence of those tweets, even though, Parler had been shut down at the time, even though many of these individuals had gotten blocked from Twitter, a lot of the QAnon folk, but we still have those. Those are archived. We also have many of the individuals who were actually involved on the day of the insurrection, including the crazy shaman guy, the QAnon shaman, who instigated and said plain and simple that he was there because Donald Trump told him to be there. We have all of that evidence, and these witnesses will be called. And I think that as this plays out, we're going to see not only more of the video evidence that we saw during the impeachment, but we're also going to hear from these people. And at this point, they have absolutely nothing to lose. We know that the head of the Proud Boys was an FBI informant. That guy is going to squeal. He's already squealed in many cases.
Wow.
This is going to go up in flames very quickly.
Yeah, Roland, one real quick point. The plaintiffs have the case already. They put the case on the Senate. All of that is public information. And so discovery ought to be fairly limited. You got the targets, you got the defendants, you got the witnesses, and you have the documentary evidence, the video evidence, and you've got the elected officials as witnesses. This case could be ready to go in a month or two if it wasn't for the court proceedings or certain delays that the defendants are going to try to do, and they're going to try to file motions. But you could try this case in about 30 days if you're the plaintiff.
Isn't it also important with this particular case, the fact that you can finally get folks to testify? Because again, one of the complaints is, there were no witnesses in the House manager's trial of Donald Trump. Okay, fine. Now, y'all want to testify? Let's go.
Yeah, me or Amisha?
Don't matter. Anybody, go ahead.
Go right ahead, Amisha.
And this process is different because whereas you had to have a vote on every single potential witness during the impeachment trial, you don't have to have that here. This is an entirely different ballgame. And I agree with A. Scott. The case was laid out and all the evidence is already there. It's not like they have to do an extensive amount of digging to set this up. I think that at this point, there are many people who are going to speak. There were people who honestly wanted to speak during the impeachment trial. We just hadn't gotten there. The case is there. The case is there, and they're going to come and they are going to say the things that are going to, I think, help to convict this former president as well as those who he actually instigated to commit some of these very heinous acts.
And Roland, one other thing, no one on the defense side is going to want to testify and go under oath. None of them. And Trump would be witness number one. I wouldn't take one deposition without taking his deposition first, cross-examining him. He is not going to want to go on the record because he may be running in 2024. They're going to fight that like a Dickens. But the reality is he either goes on the record and goes under oath, or as insurance coverage, they settle the case. Look for the possible settlement or resolution. The plaintiffs won't want to settle, though, quite frankly. They'll get their legal fees, but they really want to put Trump on blast and the insurrectionists on blast and get a civil justice ruling here.
What insurance settlement? Because he was, at the time it took place, he was president.
Yeah, but he was also head of his businesses. He was also still ownership interest in his businesses. They could try to tap the insurance of Trump Enterprises to cover him. Plus, remember, he's got millions of dollars in a campaign finance fund as well. So wherever the sources of money are, I'd settle. If I were Trump, I'd try to settle that case if I couldn't delay it or get it thrown out, because I wouldn't want to go on the record with the very fine lawyers from the NAACP and from the Milstein law firm as plaintiff's counsel. I got to tell you, look for a lot of activity, because this case is going to put every bad actor on blast. And remember this, they can call the senators, Hawley, Cruz, and others as co-conspirators, or at least witnesses who they would argue were co-conspirators, and put them under oath. This lawsuit is going to make a lot of people, elected officials and otherwise, Democrats and Republicans, really, really uncomfortable in this country. This is a lawsuit to watch.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends, go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.